11/10 Racecraft.
Welcome back to the 11/10 podcast. It is the 11th episode of the podcast of our first season. Thanks for joining us for the ride. It's been, we've covered a lot already.
Covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. Quick. Those of you that have watched, even today we were on a cruise and someone mentioned that they've really enjoyed in their...
Car cruise.
Yeah, car cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not a boat cruise.
Not a cruise.
Too slow.
Not a cruise ship.
Yeah, and it's nice to get that feedback. Again, we appreciate that. Thank you for subscribing as always. Right off the bat, we want to tell you about the next season. So next year, we'll start off with a new season, another 11 episodes, and we're going to do some different stuff in terms of maybe seeing some new people on the podcast.
Yeah, maybe a new location.
Right, so Stay tuned for that. But today, we want to talk to you about shows, and we've all been to a car show. Pretty straightforward. I mean, everybody's parked. It's either outside or inside. You've got a coffee in your hand or maybe a judging sheet or whatever you've got going on, but pretty standard. There's a whole other realm that is extra special, and that's the scene behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's trade shows.
Yeah, the trade shows. So we're talking about your SEMA is obviously, everyone knows SEMA.
Yeah, there's Tokyo Auto Salon, Essen Motor Show. There's PRI. There's different trade shows in the industry where.
And you're saying even locally, even JRP, for example, right?
Yeah, JRP holds one in February annually, except for this year.
Well, COVID's an exception for everything, as we know. But so we wanted to tell you more about the behind of the scenes there, and I think there's no better way to start off than the most popular one and talking about the evolution, because right off the bat, your first time in SEMA was 2003?
Yeah, it was back in 2003. I went down just on a whim with a few of my friends, and we flew into LA. Rented actually, I think we flew into San Fran. No, LA. I can't remember. Really, it was a long time ago. We flew in there, rented a car, drove to Vegas.
SEMA is in Vegas, by the way.
It's in Vegas. It's been going on for a long time.
Yep.
For years. Yep. And so typically the SEMA is not open to the general public. You need to be in the industry or
in the trade.
In the trade,
right?
Yeah. And anything really automotive related would get you into the show. Back in 2003, I was not in automotive. I was actually doing tool and die. You can follow that up on one of our episodes of the
February podcast.
Yeah, what I was doing. So I embellished on the name of my company, and I was giving all my friends different titles, including sanitary engineers for some of them, and and I would back then they were pretty lax, so. Lo and behold, we had all our passes show up in the mail, and they accepted
all the sanitary engineers.
Yeah, all the sanitary engineers, and we ended up going to.
There's a lot of sanitary engineers this year.
We're just walking around, and there's a lot to see. It is massive. It's a couple million square feet, and I mean it is bigger than anything you can even imagine.
So the main reason why this is so special, why it's so big, is we talk about trade or trade shows. When you talk about certain industries, you're getting into the people who work in the industry. They need to supply parts or buy parts. They need tools. So it's not necessarily, for example, if we talk a car industry trade show, I remember a guy I went to school with. His dad developed a marble type balancing system for Caterpillars and large dump trucks and stuff like that, where instead of using wheel weights, they put these things in the wheel.
In the tire.
And of course, he's at SEMA. I'm like, how are you going to SEMA? You help do dump truck stuff, right? So it's a very, anything that has to do with the industry, and the whole point is what you're going to learn.
Yeah, the whole point of it. I mean, they do have a lot of seminars that you can sign up for. It's incredible. It's truly a learning experience, and when you do go there, as much as you want to party because you're in Vegas, really you have to be there from open to close, from 9 until 6 p.m. daily, and you want to be on the first shuttle out of there. The lines are pretty big, and even though it is only open to the trade only, it is packed. There's a lot of people there. And I mean, everyone from everywhere, or, everywhere in the world basically shows up.
Comes in
SEMA.
for this, yeah.
And so there's so much ground to cover.
Well, you've told me, like, I said, hey, we'll go down, and said, well, hey, is it enough that I can come for like a 2 or 3 day weekend? And it's flat out answer, just like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
You need a week, right?
I mean, there's these massive halls, and we're talking about like 6 halls, and it takes about half a day to travel one hall, and the halls are just absolutely enormous. And the other thing SEMA does, and this, like, I hate this personally, but I think they do it for a reason, is everything is like really spotty. So so they'll put like some of the performance stuff over here, and then it'll be right beside like some off-road stuff, and then over by some tent trailers, and so you really have to like cover all the ground to make sure you see something.
See everything.
Yeah. So if they had like one hall of just road race European cars, I would just go there and call it a day, and that's it.
The show,
right? But no, like, we would have to travel through the tire hall, go past the 4-wheel drive exhibits, and then there's like 2 aisles in the very back where there's a whole bunch of like performance stuff.
Yeah.
And how do you know that?
Well, and I've heard stories where like you'll see builds. Everyone always talks about certain builds for the show, or you've got people that you know of or watch or follow on YouTube, whatever. They're building these cars and you want to see them, or you want to go see what's new. And you'd be surprised what gets tucked away in a booth.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. So you never know what you're going to see there. I know just even the last one, that there were certain cars where it's like, hey, did you see this? Or this was there. And you may miss it because you haven't covered the whole show. You don't have time.
Well, the other thing too is like, so you'll have, let's just say you have like a shop. Some shop somewhere tucked away like in New Zealand, and they're doing like the most crazy build, and it's gone viral, and let's just say they put a V10 in the back of this car, and it's like hybrid electric, who knows, just a crazy ass build. Goes viral, huge on the internet. At SEMA, this is just a small shop. They have no clout. So they're not going to be able to get a booth in the front where MagnaFlow is. So they're in the very back, and if you want to go stumble on this crazy build, you got to go look for them. You'll find them, but they'll be there, right? So, short of contacting the shop and asking them if they're at SEMA, what's their booth number, you really do have to cover a lot of ground. You're like literally just walking. And to give you an idea of walking, like we had a pedometer. So my partner Kaiser, he put one of these Fitbits on his ankle. Okay. Right? And we were logging 36,000 steps a day. And like our feet were just, and we're a couple of big guys, right? And our feet were just like, it felt like stumps, like they were completely numb.
Well, being busy for a regular, like we talk like a big car show that you go to is maybe 14,000, 15,000 steps.
Yeah, and then then it's fast paced, and we've learned. I mean, I've been there like, I don't know, a dozen times now, so I kind of know you want to be hydrated, you want to have your water, you want to have a backpack so that you're going to take as little literature as possible, because everything's online nowadays, right? So what I do is I usually take a picture of the booth number, the product, and then that's how I catalog it. So I'll easily go through like 1,000 or 1,500 pictures on those 4 days, and I'll have to go back and look through the pictures, and I use that pictures instead of like grabbing catalogs of things, right? Because when we first started, I would come back with 80 pounds of luggage. It's just paper, and ask me if I've ever opened a catalog. I'd probably have catalogs from 03, like
it's a paper mache,
dust, right? Yeah.
So I want to stay there for a second. So when we talk about these builds and the cars and stuff like that, the whole point and why these builds are so extreme is these are literally display beds for products, for shops, for services. So that's first of all why all of these trade shows are the pinnacle. They are an ability to display what you can do. And it may be latest and greatest products, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, some of the booths also, like as an example, H&R. So H&R will have like, the Hoonigan 930 RWB in their booth, and they'll have like another M3. Okay, H&R, they have springs, right? They make springs and shocks, or just springs and sway bars. So you're gonna see like they have a huge booth because they're a force to be reckoned with. So they're going to have a lot of like celebrity type cars in the booth. And so they didn't build the entire car. They just have like
they're showcasing
one or
their
two products in there. But it's nice to go there and say, oh, look at that. That's the car that I saw, like several times on
Well, I like to think too, like even if not, again, I haven't been. Okay. Now I hear a lot from this guy and I love these trade shows. I like to follow them online, which you can do.
Yeah.
You know, that's where latest stuff comes out. But the way I think of it is, from other trade shows that I've been into, is, for example, you get the latest dashboard or the latest electronic product, let's say for a car.
Right.
To see it online is not the same as seeing it in someone's dashboard, getting an idea of how they fit a product to the car, how does it look, how does it feel tactile.
Yeah, and the reps are there explaining everything, and they're talking about the product, and you can ask very specific questions, and then you get their information and stuff. Now, what we also learned is that they have, in a certain section of SEMA, they have like a new product showcase.
Okay.
So we've learned.
It's its own dedicated section, kind of?
Yeah, it's a dedicated section, and it's like a really small conference room.
Okay.
And they have all these like cabinets set up, glass cabinets, and they have all the like innovative products or like new for this year. So they'll have like, you know, the new AIM Solo 2, they'll have the new methanol injection kit. They'll have, and they will actually have it in sections. So one section's all suspension, one section's all like, you know, electronics, and the other section's all exhaust.
Okay.
So there you can, so what we were doing is like on the first day we beeline for there, like really take our time. You can go up to the glass display case. You don't have to touch anything, but you can actually there's a little card, and it gives you a little synopsis of what that product is, and it'll tell you what booth and what hall that manufacturer is, right? So that's what we did. So we are, just because, you know, we really want to learn, we're there to learn. So we want to see the latest and greatest. You know, how did we know that Snow Performance actually has a different controller on their methanol kit?
Right.
We went there.
Okay.
If I didn't see that, I would have just walked right past the Snow booth. I'm like, yeah, we use you guys. How's it going, guys? You know, just keep going.
Yeah.
You know, like,
you want to see.
How do you know that they have a new controller on their stage 2?
Yeah.
Unless you go up and actually talk to them.
Yep.
And you're only there for 4 days. Are you going to talk to every rep of everything you use? No.
Right.
So that's what we learned. We basically want to go there. We want to research all these new products and take pictures of it. I make a note of which one I actually want to go to and like ask the more specific questions.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing now. So we're trying to streamline the whole trip. And
once you've gone after a couple times, right? Like you're budgeting your time differently.
Exactly.
And I guess that's the funny part too, is like I think of it from a build perspective to see these cars, but really that's just a display thing. What you're actually going is to meet reps from companies and stuff like that. And it's everything from when we talk industry. The reason why it's so huge is it's not just suspension and springs. It's as far as seatbelt. Right? Yeah. All your gloves, your helmets, your suits, safety stuff, you know, down to, again, I'm sure Snap-on was at SEMA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure Milwaukee was there.
There's a dedicated hall where there's a lot of tools and hoists and, you know, air conditioning, charging, and tire balancers and all that. So there is a hall for that, but even in that hall, there's a couple of tucked away little performance things. So Literally, you can't skip halls, because just because you look into a hall and you're like, I don't need this hall, you're gonna miss like some really good gems in all these halls. So you gotta really do the ground, and you gotta walk. And SEMA generally is from Tuesday to Friday, and for the most part they don't do sales. You cannot buy product there. I think there are certain manufacturers that are exempt, and they are allowed to sell some product. I don't know how they get away with this. It's been, you know, basically on the Friday afternoon, at like the show ends at like say 5 o'clock on a Friday. You know, if you have your eye on something, at 4 o'clock you go back there. There's a good chance that you'll get something pennies on the dollar. Because a lot of these manufacturers do not want to ship the stuff back. They would rather just like get rid. It's mostly demo stuff. They get rid of it all. I remember we actually picked up a. Back in 07, we went. I got one of those aluminum racetracks. I think I paid $30 for it, and my friend got a spring compressor. Like, it's a 5-foot spring, like a. Actually, no, it wasn't a spring compressor. It was actually a hydraulic press for pressing out bearings.
Okay.
For free. They didn't want to take it back. They're like, you can have it. So we had to like go down like the hall and get one of those trolleys and put it on. Then we went to the Greyhound station and we like loaded it onto a bus and we shipped it to Buffalo. And I don't know.
It's just him on a bus next to this press or what?
No. You can ship like large things on the Greyhound bus. And then we flew back and then he went. Anyways, all I'm saying is like, you know, typically you're not allowed to buy anything at SEMA, but on a Friday at the end of the show, like maybe an hour before, if you coordinate with the person, just say, hey, can I purchase this, this, and this on the Friday afternoon? They'll most likely say, sure, unless you're going to another trade show. Like some people will actually pack up the booth
and just go to the next one.
Go to the next show, and then then they're bringing all the product with them. But it really depends, but that's what you can expect there. Also, the outside of SEMA is open to the general public. Right. So if you are going to go with let's just say hypothetically we can bring our significant others. So you can get a pass because we're in the industry, and then you can get a spouse pass.
Okay.
Right. So there are, you can bring basically a spouse pass. That's basically it. So a lot of the general public will come out and look at all the cool things, the cars.
Oh yeah.
It's not the booths; they're just cars, like really, really nice cars that are parked outside.
And then there's really bad weld jobs as well.
Yes, that's something else we could touch on. But yeah, a lot of some of these shops that are putting together these very elaborate and extensive builds,
showy builds.
Well, they rush things, they cut corners, and they have deadlines, or so a lot of things that end up going there are not very functional, right?
Yeah.
So they look good from 15 feet away, but when you come up close, you'll see a lot of shortcuts and.
Was it Whistling Diesel? Was there someone else at the shows, and there was like a truck that didn't even have a drive shaft in it? Like it's like a huge like F350 or something, just a big one, and there's no drive shaft.
Yeah. That's it.
So the other thing too is, like you said, with the cars coming and going, there's streams of people who just literally wait outside the conference centers for the cars to leave.
Oh,
the ones that can leave under power.
So that's a show in itself.
Yeah.
So Friday at the end of the show at 5 o'clock, they literally set up grandstands.
Oh, okay.
On the exit, and people will go there like 3 hours before just to get a seat.
That makes sense to me.
So you can see all the crazy cars, the ones that are functional, the crazy cars like leaving here.
Yeah.
You see all the 2,000 horsepower of this and the Camdo of that and the massive. They even have literally Gravedigger and big.
Oh, the monster trucks.
The monster trucks just drive on by, and then they just turn on Flamingo or whatever, Paradise Road or whatever that is, and they just
load them up,
go down the road. Yeah, like a full-on Gravedigger monster truck is just leaving. And then sometimes later at night, I guess the police turn a blind eye to this kind of stuff, but on the strip you'll see some of these ridiculously not road legal cars just cruising the strip. It's
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see all that. But generally by Friday, the end of the day, we're
burnt out.
Yeah, we're so burnt out. For the first few SEMAs, we would do this and see it. But,
so here's a question for
you. And there's
you.
Different gates too. So there's front gate.
You might
miss a lot of the cars exiting the rear gate because they have this exact same thing on the rear.
Okay.
Right. So they have grandstands in the rear and everyone exiting there. So you got to kind of strategize and pick.
2003 versus let's say 2011 was the span you said.
Yeah.
In 2003, did they have the drift demonstrations?
No.
So this is I asked because I thought so.
Yeah.
It's funny now. You can't. SEMA now comes along with, obviously that's part of the industry. That's part of the trades.
Yeah.
Now you always see there's an outdoor drift demonstration now.
Yeah, Hoonigan. Usually it's sponsored by Ford. Honestly, Ford
Performance or whoever.
Ford usually.
I'm sure Subaru did it with Ken Block originally. It goes with whoever's sponsoring it, right?
Yeah, it seems so. It's been Ford for the last few years.
Interesting.
And then the Hoonigan guys have their own little pit, a little bit off to the side.
Okay.
So they have a burnout pit there, and then sometimes in the back, on the back lot where the buses come, the shuttle buses, BMW will actually set up a drift course there, and. It's open to, you can ride shotgun with a professional driver. And
is it M-Town or is it something different?
No.
It sounds like M-Town, though.
I don't know. They have basically M5s and F80 M3s, and then the F90 M5s, with the rear drive on, and they're just basically just drifting the thing.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
The difference between PRI. So what is PRI? How does it compare to SEMA?
PRI is race.
Okay.
It's racing.
Okay.
Right? Where SEMA could be electronics, it could be wheels and tires, it could be caliper covers, it could be vinyl wraps, it could be tint.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a lot of just visual stuff.
Okay.
It could have audio stuff, and you know what I mean, navigation, and then PRI is much more hardcore. It's a much smaller show.
Okay.
Generally takes us about a day and a half to go through PRI.
PRI is where?
PRI stands for Performance Race Industry.
Okay.
And they are in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And it's generally the second week of December.
Okay.
Whereas SEMA is generally the last week of October or the first week of November. So they're about 5 weeks apart, those two shows. Yeah, PRI is much more focused on, like race, synchro gearboxes, dog leg gearboxes, controllers, like engine. There's a lot of engine builders there. Edelbrock is like a big guy there. Any of the cam manufacturers, camshafts.
Okay.
It's very
more
race,
specific.
very race specific, race focused.
Okay.
Some safety equipment, obviously.
Well, that makes sense. You get like a smaller trade show, maybe more specific.
And there's a lot less cars. PRI is all just like small 10x10 booths, and you might, I don't know, in the whole hall, how many cars? There might be 30 cars in the entire hall. Yeah.
But do you see, by contrast, do you see like in these booths, are there like engine blocks and like 5 exhaust manifolds? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of products.
It's the internal beauty.
A lot of products, yeah. It's not a big hall, right? So are you going to waste your entire booth with a car when really what you're trying to show somebody is your product. The product.
My welds are nice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about for a second. JRP's is Canadian.
Right. So JRP they have a trade show as well. It's a small, obviously on a smaller scale, but what they do is they invite some of the leading reps up from the U.S. or from globally.
Mm-hmm.
So we, as any of the Canadians, because a lot of shops from out of province will fly in.
Okay.
And they set them up in the hotel, and then they come. They can actually speak with the reps. Like BBS or Recaro or like Apex wheels or any of those. They have some examples of the latest items that they're offering, and they also have a nice lunch and some raffles, and it's pretty cool. It's nice. Again, it's invite only. It's for the industry.
So, and what have you? Is there any other ones that we're kind of missing, like? That you've been to?
I have been to the Essen Motor Show in Germany.
Right.
And it was a while ago. It was also probably I think around 2003 or 2004.
Industry oriented again.
It's an industry oriented show as well. I can't really remember too much about that. It was so long ago. And I was I'm not there on I was really there to look at the show and the cars and everything and experience it.
Yeah.
So, back then, and I'm not about to go up and just talk to random people about, in their booth.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just experience.
Gawking at the stuff, yeah. So what are your big takeaways? So obviously you've learned, budget your time.
Yeah.
You're obviously going to find for the shop, for 11/10, you're trying to find the latest, the greatest, what you can sell or what kind of products you're working with, right?
Sometimes, we do want to offer certain products with our names called private label.
Yeah.
So we do offer we have custom wheels, we have custom brakes, helmets as well, belts, and some motorsport hardware. So we go and we compare products there. Mm-hmm. We talk to different vendors, and then obviously we discuss about it's what they call MOQ, minimum order quantity. So you got to discuss initial purchase or buy-ins to get in, to get your name on certain things.
Right.
So so we have like titanium lugs, and we have our little logos etched in, laser etched, and in order to get the logo laser etched, you have to buy X amount of hundreds of bolts and stuff like that.
Well, and this is the key. Like it's not. This is where the quality behind different shops comes in, and I know. And obviously all of you there who haven't been to 11/10, or if you're listening to this podcast, you should know the goal here is highest quality, period. Okay, been in the industry for a while. We've talked about both of our backgrounds. Randy's background is extensive, especially since, you've got that machining and engineering background.
Yep.
Point what I'm getting at here is that there's not one, I'm going to use the helmet story, for example, for private label. There's not one helmet vendor that they went and visited. You're comparing all of them and picking the best, and saying this is what my people will want to buy.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right? Like, and I'd ask them, do you offer this option? Because myself as a user, I would like certain features on the helmet that I'm going to start carrying, right? So
well,
like,
the comms and stuff. I know for your helmets, comms was a big one, and
removable padding, and you know, and the weight. You know, you want to save some weight and get the carbon fiber.
And like that's the thing, and at a good price point, like those are the things. Like the helmet's a perfect example, because you can get all of these features, but once you start paying for a Bell or Shui or whatever, you're starting to get in there. Like removable padding is a feature you'd think, oh yeah, every single one has that. No, it doesn't. You know, and you know, visors that come with it. So the point of the trade show too is obviously to discover what's the best, latest, and greatest, but also, for example, when you see 11/10 items, right? That's the point, is to find the best stuff to be able to say, here, this is what we're carrying, and you're not going to carry something that's not going to work well for your name, right? It's important. So, and that's not open to everyone.
Right.
That's not open to, you cannot walk off the street and say, okay, I'm going to go and buy this part. You know, this is a wholesaler or a manufacturer.
It's nice to be able to go to various ones and actually ask them and compare them. Like, you know, I was just talking to brand XYZ down the hall. How do you compare to that? Are you able to do this? Can you do that, right? Globally, like, you know, the entire industry goes to one spot. So really, if you're in the industry, that's the place you got to go.
Well, we were just talking with a close buddy of ours. A part had a weld crack, and I learned, you know, it was a spoon part, but manufactured by someone else. I know, for example, Mazda, they sell Mazda Speed parts. All of their mufflers at one point were Borla technically, but instead of Borla, it was Mazda Speed embossed. And you learn it's not just shops, it's not just certain, you know, places. It's other companies that are working together, and it's really a maximization of all the resources. Right.
Exactly.
So, what other big takeaways? Like, what else have you learned and taken away from the show?
So, coupled with SEMA, there's a show called Apex. Apex with 2 A's. And the Apex show is it's in the Sands Convention Center, which is a couple of miles away from the Las Vegas Convention Center. And they have shuttles constantly going back and forth. Now, the Apex show is a little bit more intense, as in it's just booth after booth after booth. They're all 10 by 10 booths.
Okay, so something like DRI.
But they're actually segregated by nations. So you'll have Taiwan representing, and then they'll have like basically 4 aisles, and that's all Taiwan. So you're in the Taiwan pavilion, right? And everything's orange, as an example. And then you'll go into the Singapore or China or Australia. They'll have Australia pavilion, and then they'll everything from Australia will be there. Or I mean, a lot of these much smaller guys. Most of these people you've never heard of, and they're trying to get a piece of the pie. But Apex is not as much in the performance. It's more the OE, or even just like parts. So I've never seen so many brake pad manufacturers in my life. Everyone's got a brake pad for everything, and
it's the most. Well, if you're going to pick one item other than tires, and tires is locked down by very few manufacturers. If you're going to lock down a part that everyone's going to go through, even electric cars,
even suspension. Like there's a lot of places had like Heim joints and like sway bar links and
so many bushings.
We're talking hundreds of manufacturers out there that are there representing, and they're hoping to get a deal with somebody from halfway around the world.
That's true.
To start providing, building their brake pad or their suspension piece, private label for that. So Apex is, it's not really performance. It's more just in the trades, but it's more OE.
Every trade show is like that. So
and then in the Apex on the top floor is all the big guys. So we got
you said Germany, BBS and
TRW, Siemens, Bosch. These are all
controllers,
tier 1 manufacturers. So they're up there as well. So again, it's not a performance thing. It's all OE,
original equipment.
It's all OEM. Sorry, that's what it is. OEM manufacturer trying to get a piece of the pie.
It's funny you mentioned by country. It's not rare, because I know from us, for mining trade shows, in terms of our background in machining, for mining or for pulp and paper, oil and gas, automotive, countries will get together, because you don't think about it. Every part, sure, that brake pad guy, but he's got to get, or her, has to get their material from somewhere, from some mine. It's got to be in a foundry somewhere. They're machining it somewhere. They're shipping it with someone. So it's a huge business line, and that's why all these trade shows are massive. And it's not. It's so much more in depth than the regular cars. And that's where I want to summarize here. It is so much more in depth than a regular car show because it's not just going and seeing the cars.
Yeah.
You know, you're seeing what's on it. Maybe they might be a demonstration.
Honestly, for the first few years, I was like just loving the cars, but now I walk right past the cops.
Yeah,
I mean,
you want to see
so much ground to cover, and once in a while I'll stop. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember seeing this car, or wow, this car looks gorgeous, right? Yeah. So all right, we'll stop and I'll look at it, and sometimes it's really hard to even just take a picture because there are a lot of people there.
It's true,
right?
It's true, and now the thing is you're getting so much more of the
celebrities. There's a ton of celebrities there.
Yeah.
Like I remember Max Verstappen was like signing autographs and.
They're going to bring them in. I'm sure Chip Foose is like hot commodity for like ages now, right?
Obviously, and we're hanging out with Aaron Kaufman from Gas Monkey Garage actually. And then,
right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then we went to a party with him, like industry.
Okay.
Oh, that's the other thing too.
Okay, let's talk about after show. So it's Vegas first. So go back to SEMA because that's going to be the biggest.
Yeah.
Any trade show, obviously, you're learning about product, you're talking to people, but you're developing a working or friendship type of relationship with these people.
Right.
Okay, and that leads to all the fun stuff that happens after the show.
Yeah. So some manufacturers will have products that are either in concept stage that they don't necessarily want to take to SEMA to show. So what they'll do is they'll actually rent a suite in a swanky hotel, and they'll give you a private VIP ticket to come up, and there's bottle service, and there's models walking around with cheese and wine platter, and then there you can actually like see these prototype or new products that they won't take to the show.
Yeah.
Or some places actually don't want to actually go to the show. So you'll actually discuss with that rep weeks in advance, and they'll be like, well, we don't have a booth at the show, but would you like to come to our industry party on this evening? Okay. Now, there's only four evenings because the show is from Tuesday to Friday. So you really do have to pick where you're going to go, right? So as an example, a couple of years ago, Vorsteiner. So Vorsteiner did not have a booth at the show, but, they invited us to their party, and they had really nice displays. It looked like a museum there. They had all their wheels out on display with lights like on them, and I was really impressed. It looked really beautiful, right? But everybody there was interested in or a rep or a dealer of Vorsteiner. And then the year later they actually had a booth at SEMA. So so sometimes you'll get invites for that, and you got to really pick and choose which party you're going to go to.
Yeah.
But really, the parties, I don't want to say this, but I think a lot of people will go to these parties to get like free alcohol. They'll talk to the show, and then they'll like leave there with a buzz, and they'll go to another party. And honestly, like
I'm sure that riffraff does kind of they notice and they know what they're looking for. And
I'll be like, that 1 week at SEMA, I get back and I need a vacation from that.
It's work.
Yeah,
well, you're looking for stuff.
I'm getting 3 to 4 hours a night sleep, and then just constant like walking, and you're not eating properly because you're on the show all day, and you have a big breakfast, and then you have a
show food,
a really big dinner, and then maybe like something in the middle.
So it is like a regular car show in that sense.
Yeah.
Stupid hours and stupid food.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
But okay, so obviously a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where we want to end it. We've covered a lot of ground for these first 11 episodes. Again, thank you. Please like and subscribe. I encourage you to leave more comments. We're here chatting with you. Between Randy and I, between myself, David, Milk for Coffee, Randy Spar, owner-operator of 1110s, we would like to see you back here again. And again, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
See you next season.
Bye-bye.